Our next guest is an award-winning speaker, author, and empowerment expert with a new book called We've Got This, The Beauty of Belonging.
Please welcome to the show, Ritu Bhasin.
Hi, Ritu.
Hi, Ritu.
Hi.
It was interesting hearing you speak right there. I'm assuming you were, growing up, you were faced with some challenges that essentially pushed you into the space, correct?
Mm-hmm. So I was born of Indian immigrant parents, and I had a quintessential upbringing in a household run by immigrants where I watched my parents really struggle to get ahead. But then I had my own challenges because I'm a survivor of relentless childhood bullying. In particular, it was rooted in racism. And so from a really young age, I learned that something is wrong with me. I internalized messages that I shouldn't be who I am. I should push down my authenticity, which is essentially what I did. I took this into the corporate world when I became a lawyer. And by all accounts, up until my mid-30s, on paper it looked like I was so happy and so successful. But if you had asked me how I felt inside, I would have told you I was deeply struggling because I didn't feel like I belonged.
Still that little girl being bullied in school.
Yes.
Is what you're feeling. In the book, you talk about being your authentic self. Harder to do than you think. What are some keys to get there?
So to live authentically, first and foremost, what we want to do is start to really dig inside of ourselves to know who we are. Because if we're going to live an authentic life, you have to know who you are at your core. And then I think it's really important that we practice a lot of self-coaching, because there are difficult moments, like you're going on a date for the first time, you have an important meeting with a boss, or you're about to tell a family member something that's really important to you, and we struggle and we feel doubt. But to be in a place where you say to yourself, I've got this. Ritu, I've got this. I'm going to put out there into the world who I really am. And then the final thing I think that's really important is that we dig deep into our body to start to recognize what it feels like to belong.
You say you got to find out who you really are. You're first generation, correct?
My parents were born in India. I was born in Canada.
Oh, okay. So you're an immigrant technically yourself then.
Well, I'm visiting here in the U.S.
You're visiting,
yes.
Oh, so you don't even live here.
I live in Canada.
Oh, you live
but
in
I'm here
Canada.
all the time.
That's interesting that you experienced that in Canada, because that is a very international country with a lot of different, like a melting pot, much like America too. And because I'm first generation here myself. So in your book, how do you define belonging then?
So I define belonging as being the profound feeling that we hold within ourselves of being honored and accepted for who we are, first and foremost by our own self. In other words, if we want to claim belonging with others, we must first belong to ourselves. You have to be who you are with your own self first and foremost, and this is what will invite you to claim belonging with others. And the last thing I'll mention, Mario, because I think this is really important, and it goes back to the point around how do we know that we're living authentically, is that belonging is a feeling. Your body will tell you whether you're feeling belonging or not, because when we're not feeling belonging, we feel anxiety and tension inside of us. Firstly, in our minds, we have all kinds of negative messaging swirling. You'll actually say really horrible things about yourself to yourself. And then the final thing is that you will deeply long for and crave happiness and joy. And when these three things are happening, they're markers of I don't belong. Whereas the inverse is true. When we feel belonging, we literally feel free.
Light up. Ritu, for anybody that's been through a traumatic experience, what advice can you give them to gain their power back?
I know personally, intimately, what it is like to survive experiences rooted in trauma. And what I would say is this, that first of all, trauma doesn't just live in our minds by way of negative thoughts. It lives in our bodies. And so it's really important that we, first of all, recognize that trauma is the thing that happens, that a lot of us experience this, and then we start to do the healing work. And I think what's paramount is focusing on body-based strategies, which in my book I call our core wisdom strategies, to help us release the stress and the tension and the pressure that lives inside of us.
Advice right there.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. Congratulations on the book for men, women, anyone that just wants
across genders, across identities. My book is for anyone who has struggled to belong because of negative messages, hurtful, harmful, hateful things coming their way. If you long for joy, if you long to be connected to yourself, this is what my book is about, and it's for you.
Thanks so much for writing this and coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
By the way, I tried on her ring before we went on, and I couldn't get it off right before we went on.
We almost got married. We almost got married.
I said I do. Pick up a copy. We've got this. The beauty of belonging now.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Thank you.